Good morning students. Today I am going to start a new chapter, that is chapter number 7 in your book. The name of that chapter is Developing GUI Applications in Java using NetBeans 3. And the topic that I am going to discuss today is working with button group control and images. So now let's start with the button group control. We all know that radio button is one of the very useful control used in GUI applications. Now here is an example of a radio button. The small white colored circle shaped control is the radio button. In this particular form, there are two radio buttons, one corresponding to the gender male and the other corresponding to the gender female. Now, when the user selects one radio button, the other radio button should be automatically deselected. Now let's say the user selects the radio button corresponding to the gender male. But however, if he thinks of changing the gender to female, then he should select this particular radio button, okay, that is the second radio button corresponding to the gender female. Now just as he selected the second radio button corresponding to the gender female, the first radio button corresponding to the gender male was not deselected, and this should not happen. This is because the gender of a person cannot be both male and female. It should be either male or either female. So once the user has changed his mind to switch from the gender male to the gender female, then on selecting the radio button corresponding to the gender female, the radio button corresponding to the gender male should get deselected, but it didn't. So now the question is, how can we overcome this problem? Now check this point. By default, one radio button is not linked with other radio buttons and need to control programmatically. Now in this case, both these radio buttons are not linked with one another. So on choosing the radio button corresponding to the gender female, if you want the radio button corresponding to the gender male to be deselected, you have to link both these radio buttons. And for linking the radio buttons, Java provides a non-visible control known as the buttons group. This control does not have any user interface. The purpose of that button group control is used to group the radio buttons used to capture data for a particular data item. Now there is a class that represents the button group control. The name of that class is ButtonGroup class. Now here is the button group control under the swing controls section in this palette window. Now as soon as I drag and drop this button group control onto this form, an instance of the button group class is created, and the instance of that button group class is button group 3 as shown in this navigator window. So this button group 3 control, which is an instance of the button group class, is an invisible control. That is why even if we had dragged this button group control onto this form, it was not visible to us. Now if we want to link both these radio buttons, we have to make use of the button group control, so that once I switch my decision to change the gender from male to female, the radio button corresponding to the gender male should get deselected. It should not remain selected like this, because the gender of a person cannot be both male and female. So now let's solve this problem. And now for that, I have to make a selection on both these radio buttons. So now let me select both these radio buttons. Now once I have made the selection for both these radio buttons, I can link both these radio buttons by grouping these radio buttons using the button group control. Now here is the button group control in the properties window. By default it is set to none. But now I am going to set it to button group 3. Now once I did that, you can see clearly here both these radio buttons are connected with the help of a line like this. Now that they are connected, on selecting one particular radio button, the other radio buttons should get automatically deselected. So let's see it practically now whether it happens or not. So for that, let me click on this run button to run this program. Now see here, initially the radio button corresponding to the gender male has been selected. Now if I change my mind to switch the gender from male to female, then on selecting the radio button corresponding to the gender female, the radio button corresponding to the gender male automatically got deselected. So this sets the condition to select only one gender out of male or female. If we choose the gender as male, the gender female will be deselected, or if we choose the gender as female, the gender male will be deselected. Okay? As a result, now the gender of a person can be either male or female. It cannot be both. And that was all made possible by linking both these radio buttons using the button group control. And the name of that button group control is button group 3, which is an instance or an object of the button group class. And keep in mind one thing, that this button group control is an invisible control. You will not be able to see it in this form even if you have dragged this button group control from this palette window onto this form. Now let's discuss how we can work with images. In many applications, it is needed to display some images or icons on frame to give user a better experience. An image can be displayed by setting the icon property of a JLabel control. NetBeans provides easy to use wizard for importing the images from a local disk or any URL to your project. Now let's see how this is done practically. At first, let me drag and drop a label from this palette window onto this form. The name of this label by default is JLabel2 as shown in this properties window. Now I am going to look for the icon element in this properties window of the label. This is the icon element. By default, there is no icon set. That's why it shows none. Now I am going to look for one image icon from my local disk. So for that, I have to click on here, and this brings me to another window where I am going to select the radio button corresponding to external image. Now I am going to import an image icon from my local disk. Now any storage element inside my local disk will be treated as a file. So the image icon that is stored in my local disk will also be treated as a file. Now I have two options from here. Either I can select the image icon as a file from the local disk, or I can set the URL path in this text field of a particular website to select the image icon from a particular website. Now out of these two options, at present I will show you how to import the image icon from the local disk as a file. So for that I have to click on this box, and this brings me to another window, okay, where I'm going to look for the image icon. Okay, let me look for the image icon in my PC. Then I have to look in the pictures folder. Then inside the folder called JPG, I have a image file called Bamboo. Now I shall choose this image file called Bamboo, okay, and then click on this open button. So this is the particular image of the Bamboo that will be used as an icon for this label specified by the name JLabel2. Okay, so for that let me click on this OK button. Now see, on doing that, the label can be identified with this image icon, which is the Bamboo image. As the size of the image is larger, that's why the size of the label control has also become larger. But I can drag its ends, okay, I can drag the ends of the label control to make the size of the label control smaller. Now see, the size has decreased to the original label, and now in place of the text JLabel2, the label shows the image icon, which is the Bamboo image. So I hope this is clear, and in this way we can set an image icon for a label. And that's all for today, and with this I end my presentation here as well as the chapter 7.